What's happening, people? You are listening to Double Take with John and Alex Sayf. Today, another episode. We're going to be talking about the NBA playoffs. Of course, there was Luka's incredible shot in that Mavs-Clippers overtime thriller. We're going to talk about who's going to win the next game in that series. Then we're going to talk OKC-Houston. Houston went up 2-0, but OKC's been able to tie up that series. Then we're going to get into Donovan Mitchell and the incredible playoff run that he's having so far.
250 burgers.
Yeah, 250 burgers. Only Jordan, Wilt, and AI have done that, so he's in pretty elite company. Then we're going to get into our Eastern Conference semifinals previews with the Heat most likely taking on the Bucks, but maybe the Magic have a
I'm not giving up on Steve Clifford yet.
Yeah, quick 3-1 comeback.
Mm-hmm.
That's what what's his face said. Stan Van Gundy. And then we'll, of course, talk about the other series, which is already set up to take place, Celtics versus Raptors, which will start off on Thursday. And then we will finish off with our safe bets of the week.
I took the lead in after our last round of safe bets.
That's right. John did. John's now 2-1. I'm 1-2.
Don't doubt the older brother.
But, of course, before that, we're going to talk about Lakers-Blazers, which happened just last night. We are coming fresh off that game. It's Tuesday morning. But first, John, what's going on, man?
Well, another day, and the Heat just swept, baby.
That's right.
Get the brooms out. And it's funny because in my bracket, I had, of all the Eastern Conference teams, I had every single team sweeping except the Heat. I thought the Pacers would get one, and I can't believe I was so disrespectful to my boys.
Yeah.
And coming up soon, we're going to have another Miami sweep. We're going to have the Miami Dolphins 16-0 season.
That's right.
But actually, no. Realistically, with the football season, we just started doing our fantasy football draft stuff. We got one of ours tonight. But it's weird because I'm in on it, but at the same time, I just feel like there's still a pandemic going on. Like, how are they going to have football games? I just don't know. Like, I'm drafting this fantasy football team. I'm sending $20 or whatever to Venmoing our commissioner, figuring all that out. But it's like, how long before I get that $20 back in a month from now? Because, there's a lot of good plans. I was talking with one of our friends, Eli. Eli was talking about this plan for having this one 8-week bubble, then another 8-week bubble, and you play with a different division. And there's so many ideas.
That sounds pretty good.
And people are getting creative, but we haven't heard the NFL say anything, and the season starts in 3 weeks from now.
Yeah, it's funny too because the NBA, everyone obviously that one has worked out very well. We're already into almost the second round of the playoffs. There's been zero cases. Cases. They've all been there for
it's a bubble.
Almost 2 months. And exactly.
They kept COVID out.
It's an airtight bubble. There's no COVID. But with the NFL, like you said, it's 3 weeks away. We still don't have a plan. The NBA planned that with like months in advance.
Yeah.
And we knew about that. And we're just like, all right, we're kind of.
It was like till June 30th. Yeah, they gave it lots of time. And now, like what? They're just gonna travel from arena to arena, to stadium, and with all the players on a football team, which it's not a basketball team, you have 15 players, some coaches, and some trainers. And
way more people, so it'll be tough. But,
so we'll see. I got the first pick in our draft. Christian McCaffrey will be on my team. But first, obviously, last night, we saw an incredible game from LeBron James and the Lakers. To quote my own brother, Alex says this is one of LeBron's best games in a Lakers uniform. Last episode, Alex, you were very critical of LeBron. You thought
I wouldn't say critical.
You thought he was in decline, and I told you no. He's just picking his moments more wisely. I said in game 1, he didn't turn it all the way on because it wasn't a must-win game. He put on the assist, the passing clinic. He still had 23, 17. Was it rebounds? Yeah, 17 rebounds, 16 assists, and he was trying to get his teammates involved. He should have taken over in the fourth quarter to get that win, but he didn't do it. It wasn't a must-win. Game 2, they blow them out. LeBron had 10 points, not a huge game, because he didn't need it. His team blew the Wizards out without it. Game 3, he knew he needed to take over, and what happened? We saw playoff LeBron come alive, 38 points. Same thing we saw last night on Kobe night. LeBron dropped 30, 10 assists, 6 rebounds with only 2 turnovers. So, Alex, what happened? LeBron's washed?
So, no, LeBron's not washed, and that's not what I didn't say he's washed, but
you said he's in decline.
I said he's in decline, and I guess what I remember that, even though I already explained it, but I'll say kind of again, is that I never said that he's incapable of putting on these performances. I was just more skeptical that he would be able to put together a run like he did in 2018, where he had these performances like every night. Like
Well,
not
he doesn't have to.
like how about this, John? We watched LeBron last night and we said, "Wow, like playoff LeBron is back." Twitter was blowing up.
Well, and Game 3 we saw.
Game 3 too, but this
So
game a little
back-to-back
more
games.
so because while Game 3 scored more, this game he came out and he had 22 in the first half. I think it was 22 or 20 points. And we haven't seen that type of scoring aggression from LeBron in a long time. So of course, and he was 10 for 12 shooting. Like that's like Miami level efficiency, and he hit 4 or 5 threes. So
yeah, that was insane. Especially there was that one where the game was pretty much already out of reach by. Honestly, they started off
the first quarter. Yeah,
so it was like 15 to 0.
24-8.
Right.
That was the Kobe score.
Right, the Kobe score. But they were up like 20 at the end of the first quarter. So that point was already over. And by the third quarter, they're like, all right, LeBron should just sit the rest of the game, which he ended up doing.
Exactly, which made sense.
But what I was going to say is that LeBron pulls up from near logo with like 19 seconds left in the shot clock. And whenever I see that, that's what always shocks me. Is the fact that, like, I've seen Dame do it, we've seen Paul George do it, we've seen
We have seen LeBron
Steph
do it
Curry.
like once, I think, in the preseason.
When there's 20 seconds left in the shot clock, like, you're not going to move it around, get a play run, you're just saying, nah, I'm just going to shoot from 40 feet out. Chucked it up, and it was right through the net.
Yeah.
And LeBron, it's interesting how you see him miss free throws sometimes, not have the best shooting performances, and then there's games like this, 4 for 5 from 3.
He wanted to remind him.
10 for 12 shooting total. And another thing, he only shot 12 shots.
Yeah, and so, of course, that's what I said. This is a very Miami LeBron game. And another thing, it's like when he has, even though, like I said, with the Lakers, he hasn't had performances like this. But even when he has had, strong stat lines, he'll have like a lot of turnovers. I can't remember which one of these games. One of these games, he had like over 5. He had a ton of turnovers. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But last night, he only had
game 1, I think.
Yeah, it would have been game 1. Last night, he only had 2 turnovers. So, like I said, overall, that's Miami LeBron. But once again, can he do this consistently in the playoffs? I don't know. And now,
of course he can.
Going a little bit more big picture for the Lakers.
Yeah, I was sitting there telling you, Alex, in the middle of the game. I was like,
come on.
I can't even believe anyone wouldn't pick this team. And it's funny because I'm a very emotional person picking, my bracket. And every year against the Warriors, except for 2016, so I was wrong that year. But every year, 2015, 17, I think 17.
18 you wouldn't have picked the Cavs.
Not 18 actually, but 15 and 17, I was just, I don't want to see the Warriors. I'm a Warriors hater. LeBron's my guy. I want to see LeBron's the GOAT in my opinion. I need to see him prove all these old people wrong who think it's MJ. I'm picking LeBron. And this year, he's got the best team, but it still didn't seem like the most logical pick. And that's what my argument is. Sometimes you gotta just go with your heart. The end of the season, LeBron and the Lakers didn't look great. But you know what the most logical pick was? I think it was Clippers over Raptors. Because the Clippers probably best put well together team.
Yeah, sure.
And Raptors in the East, there were some questions about the Bucks going in. The Raptors were the team that was hottest in the bubble, 7-1 coming in. They're probably the most defensively complete team, the best defense in the NBA.
I would still argue
so that would be a very rational, just logical pick if you just look at the facts. But you know what? I would say sometimes you got to be emotional and go with LeBron and the what you've seen him do in past years. He's still capable of doing it. So I went with that, and I went with Lakers, Celtics.
Yes,
which Celtics we got too. Even
going into the playoffs, as someone who didn't pick the Lakers, my reason was not because of LeBron James. My reason wasn't even because of I didn't trust Davis. Which let's give Davis credit. He's had a few good games, but let's wait until you're down 2-1 versus the Clippers maybe, and you have a big fourth quarter coming up. Let's see if Davis can perform then. Anyway, my reservations with the Lakers were never about those 2 guys. It was about the dudes around them. Losing Avery Bradley, I think people made a bigger deal out of that than it was. But at the same time, that's someone he's one of your best defenders on your team.
Clearly, they didn't need it against Dame and CJ.
Yes. But when Danny Green and KCP and Alex Caruso and Kuzma and even now J.R. Smith, who got a lot of minutes last night, when those guys are making shots, of course the Lakers are going to look incredible. The Lakers had 23s or something. I don't know. They had a ton of threes last night.
And that was the difference with Game 1. Game 1, they were getting those shots. They were just missing them.
Yeah, they missed all of them pretty much. Mm-hmm. So, and that's the thing. It's if they make them, they're going to be good. They're going to make the finals probably. Especially now. We'll get into the Clippers a little bit. But I guess, let's transition now. The Clippers, who've been playing the Mavericks,
Right.
Luka Doncic has been putting on a show. His first 4 playoff games have been incredible. He's breaking the internet. Everyone's having an incredible time. Of course, Game 4 comes around. The Mavericks rallied back from a 19-point deficit.
21.
They were down by 21 points.
Down 21.
And they come back without Porzingis. Porzingis, that was a shock to us. We weren't watching the game in the beginning of the game. We ended up catching the.
I heard like Porzingis is out. Like what?
Yeah, we got the fourth quarter, but I looked at the
and still
the
I don't
score.
even know what was the. I'm gonna check the injury.
Before the game, his knee was like tied or something like that.
But now it's like their whole team. So now next game, Seth Curry's out, and Kristaps and Luka are still day to day because of the ankle and knee.
So. It will be a big game. But anyway, so that game, Kristaps does not play. Luka's coming off his ankle injury, and you're down 2-1. What does Luka do? He comes back from 21 points, ends up with a stat line of 43 points, 17 rebounds, and 13 assists, and hits let me not only give him credit for the game winner that he hit, but like a couple plays before, he hit another huge step back 3 that was not logo distance, but it was far out.
Well, that's the thing.
He's just putting on a show.
Up to that point in the game, he had already had probably the best game of his career. One of the best performances I've seen, right? He already had 40 at that point, 17 boards, and 13 or 12
and
or 13
they come back,
assists.
they were only down 1 point down.
Coming back from 21, and just the shots in the game that he was hitting, it was very clear the comeback was because of him. The reason they were in that game was because of him. Yes, Trey Burke and Seth Curry and Maxi Kleber, those guys helped.
28 points, dude.
Unreal.
This guy's going off.
He needed those guys to do it, but it was very much, he was the catalyst. He fueled it, and we all knew at the end of that game, he was going to be hitting.
You got to give him the credit 100%. And before I ask you the question, John, who's going to take game 5 really quick, I got into it on Twitter with Bomani Jones. Not exactly. But Bomani Jones did tweet, people are losing their minds.
Who's even with now? ESPN?
Yeah, he's with ESPN.
Okay, so.
He said, people are losing their minds about 21-year-old Luka, but you don't remember that guys like Shaq, Kevin Durant, and even Anthony Davis were this good at 21. And I responded.
But they weren't doing that.
I said, listen, if you look at their stats, all these guys are incredible. Davis was like 24 points, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks. Shaq was putting up like 30 and 12 or something like that. And of course, Durant already had a scoring title at that age. But Luka, I said the difference with them and Luka is Luka's also having, I could argue, a better stat line, but that doesn't even matter.
Yeah,
either just as incredible or even better stat line. And now in the playoffs, he's taking the favored team. Vegas has this team favored to win the championship, and he hit a game winner over them, and he's leading his team without his second best player. Mm-hmm. And Bomani Jones responded. I said something along those lines. I know it wasn't that one, obviously, 140 carries.
You said he's not doing it in the playoffs.
I said the other guys did not have incredible playoff runs, really. Luka does. And then he responded, well, what do you make of the fact that there are 5 players on each court?
Yeah, that sounded like a stupid thing.
And I was like, so if you're saying,
what
do you make of the idea that there's 5 guys on the court at a time? Well, does that mean that you're saying that Luka's supporting cast, which he's missing Porzingis in? So you're telling me Maxi Kleber, Trey Burke, who they picked up off of the waiver wire, Tim Hardaway Jr., these guys are better than Russ and Harden, or Davis had Drew Holiday, Tyreek Evans. I think they had Eric Gordon that year as well. And Shaq, of course. He had Penny Hardaway. So these guys had great supporting cast as well, or at least as good as the Mavericks. I don't think the Mavericks supporting cast is that good.
Well, it's ridiculous.
Luka who makes these guys look incredible.
So he's like, oh guys, let's not get too crazy and carried away with this 21-year-old doing great things. We've seen 21-year-olds do great things. And obviously, you bring up the argument, well, they weren't doing it like this. Mm-hmm. And he's crediting it to the team. So after this game, when everyone's going, oh my gosh, Luka, 43 points, triple-double game winner, he's going, wow, Trey Burke. What a great game by Trey Burke with 28 points.
Yeah,
what? It's just, I get it. Shaq did the same thing on what is it called? Inside the NBA, on their TNT show. And he was like, listen, I've seen it before. Like, I don't want to see Chuck. I don't want to see you going crazy. We saw Dame do this the other night. Well, first, Dame didn't do that. Dame was great, but Chuck was like, yeah, and we were celebrating how great Dame was too. So
Dame's also 30 years old. Luka is 9 years younger.
But still, I don't understand this hesitance to say so annoying him. And the truth is, right now, the roadmap to getting to be one of the greatest players of all time he's still on the path right now. If you told me by the time that he retires, he would be the greatest player of all time, I wouldn't be like, oh, really? Because right now he hasn't done this and this and this. And by, MJ and LeBron's point in their careers and Magic and Bird's point in their careers, they're already there. He's as good as anyone has been in their second season at age 21. So at this point, he's on the path.
It's early to tell, but of course.
I'm not saying he's going to go. I'm just saying right now, he's done everything you can up until this point in his career to get there.
Nick Wright and Bill Simmons, some guys that we've listened to, have pointed out how, like, at this point in your career, you've hit these checkpoints. LeBron made the finals at age 22, and MJ versus the Celtics dropped 63 points.
In the second season.
Magic Johnson had the game in the finals in his rookie season where Kareem was out. He played center. He dropped, like, 42 points and, 15 rebounds, something like that. Larry Bird had a ring in his second year. Kareem had a ring and an MVP in his second year. So all the greats, like those are, if you want to say, that could be the top 5, let's whatever it is. All the greats in their first 1 to 3 years in the league have done something like spectacular that no one really expected them to do. Yeah. And Luka's doing that now. So yes, Luka is hitting the checkpoints. Can he make top 10 all the time? Potentially, if he doesn't get injured, we'll see what happens. But I guess going smaller picture now to this series, John. It's tied 2-2 now. They're going back to LA for the. Oh wait, no, they're not actually going back to LA. Never mind. There's no home court. But they're staying in the bubble for Game 5.
Well, now the Clippers are going to have their virtual logo on the court.
Yeah, so maybe that affects it. But Paul George is struggling. Kawhi's still playing great. But who do you think is going to take Game 5? And then, do you think that will be an indicator of who will win the series too?
Yeah. So I have to go with the Clippers. Overall, just better team, I think. I think Luka is incredible. The whole that Kristaps injury just worries me. Seth Curry is out tonight. The game is at 9 p.m. And I just think the series is getting to the point where this is the wake-up call. And if the Clippers, if they lose Game 5, then I think that's that. We're gonna remember this team as with the 2012 Lakers with Steve Nash and Dwight Howard, and the Nets that had Paul Pierce, KG, Darren Williams, Brook Lopez, Joe Johnson. We're gonna remember it as just one of those super teams that didn't get it done. If they lose in the first round, I think
not even that didn't get it done, but just like far underachieved.
Yeah, they were wildly underachieved. And because I do not think that this team is gonna be paired with the 2012 Lakers as one of those underachieving teams, I think they have to win this game. It's a must-win. Kawhi did everything he could have done, and unfortunately, he was not able to make a play. Kawhi got them the 3 to Morris, put them up 1 point. They got the foul at the end, so with 3 seconds left. Luka has the ball with 3 seconds left, and the Clippers are saying we're going to be up 3-1. Right? If it wasn't for that shot, and instead
3 seconds
they do the Reggie Jackson switch. And now your best player, Kawhi Leonard, who was not going to let you lose, was unable to make a play at the end of the game.
Here's what I want to say about that, John. People always talk about Kawhi like he's a robot. And I'm sure the Clippers defensive scheme, a lot of teams do this where it's like, we're switching on everything. Like, that's what we're doing. That's how we're running it. And on the last play of the game, I don't know if I'm going to blame, maybe I'll blame Kawhi, or maybe it's not that he's being robotic listening to his coach, but Kawhi.
It was a good play to
who's shooting a shot. Luka Doncic is shooting a shot. He's got 40 points. And at this point, they're living or dying with what Luka's going to do in the last 3 seconds. You can't let Reggie Jackson. He was cooking Reggie Jackson. And even let's say Reggie Jackson was even like Pat Beverly, Kawhi Leonard. I don't want you letting Pat Beverly switch on.
No, actually, he's the one other guy on that team I would be okay.
Dude,
because he's done a great job.
Luka's 6'8". He's shooting over Pat Beverly.
But still, Pat Beverly's going to get a hand in there. He's going to contest. He'll do something.
Well, I guess, so we don't have to argue that hypothetical. But my point is, like, Kawhi Leonard, you are the defensive stopper. You probably are the best defender in the league, one of the greatest perimeter defenders of all time. You're letting Luka shoot over Reggie Jackson?
Boston College alum, Reggie Jackson.
Dude, I totally forgot about that. I'm not even thinking.
Yeah.
Actually, good for him. He's been putting together a few solid games.
But that...
you're getting torched by Luka.
Well, listen, it's fine. Everyone gets torched by Luka. All I'm saying is the two-time defensive player of the year, the best defender in the league, has to be on an analysis team. But aside from that, right, this team they have title aspirations, and if they can't handle the 7 seed, given all the breaks they've got, especially with Porzingis getting ejected that first game, Luka missed parts of Game 3, Porzingis missing Game 4, and they're going to lose Game 5 in that series if they can't take advantage of this. And I also don't think Paul George is going to go out like this.
Yeah, we got to talk about playoff P, John.
I'll just say quickly. He's been horrible, right? Obviously.
Yeah, give us a rundown of his.
So game 2 in 32 minutes, 4 for 17. Okay, 17 shots. He only made 4 of them. Game 3, 38 minutes, 3 for 16. He shot 16 shots, only made 3. Game 4 again. You think eventually he's gonna snap out of it?
Game 4 would have been the one, I guess. Like right? Like
45
minutes
minutes
in a row.
45 minutes. 3 of 14 shooting. We've seen this before from him, and when he hasn't played well, and then it's always like, oh, it's the shoulder injury. And we saw after,
It was this bad though.
I can't really remember if it was after game 1 or 2. He's got the ice on his shoulders.
Yeah.
Is that like LeBron? Is that like
game two?
LeBron putting the cast on after the Warriors swept in 2018 to show that he had a broken hand through the whole series? Is he just trying to show that during the press conference? Because fine, if you're injured, then
but it's his left
tell us
shoulder.
you're injured.
It's his left shoulder too, which I get. Like you need your left shoulder.
No, you do. Look at Dame. I mean,
Yeah.
Dame's. He said his finger was dislocated. He's still at 34 there.
Yeah, not 34. So.
But he said because of it, it messed up, his gather, the way he, I guess, comes when he shoots the ball, whatever it was. But 14 points, 11 points, and 9 points for Paul George games 2, 3, and 4. I don't think we're going to continue to see this happen if he's not injured. Because at some point, we've seen him be great in the playoffs. He is great enough to come out of this. And we've seen him he finished top 3 in MVP voting last season. And now he's just not going to show up. I just don't believe he's got injured shoulders.
But here's the
He
thing.
hit a slump.
Yeah.
And last game he knew that if he played a semi-decent game, they'd be up 3-1. And he knows that. He knows it's 2-2 because he hasn't performed. And I think that's all the motivation you need as a great player.
Game 1, John, he had 27 points, and I'm pretty sure he hit a big 3 at the end there too. All these games are starting to blur together for me. But I think I don't think it's an injury. I question his ability to bounce back, because the thing about Paul George is he's never been the alpha, like super mentally tough guy, the guy that you trust in the playoffs, nothing like that.
When he was young.
And when you're playing like house money, when you have no expectations, look at me, they did have expectations. They still ended up losing. I know they lost to the Heat, so whatever, you can make of that what you will.
Oh, they were not going to win that series.
But another thing is he's very clearly been affected by all the hate that he's getting on Twitter.
Yeah,
people
him tweeting back.
on Instagram. He's sitting on Instagram like, I don't give an F what you got. Everyone says that. Blah, blah, blah.
Not
it's
a move,
listen,
man.
If you have to tell us that you don't care about what people are saying, then guess what?
You
probably do. So, we'll see. I don't care for Paul George too much, but that's been enough Paul George.
I got Clips in game 5. Who takes game 5?
Game 5, I would have to go with the Clippers.
I'm just going to go with it.
I'm just going to favor it. And I think Kawhi, this is a game that even though Kawhi's been incredible, he won't let them lose no matter what Paul George
this
does.
is if they put him in position to make a play on the last shot of the game. But moving along to the other Western Conference series that's tied 2-2. OKC Thunder versus Houston Rockets. Alex, we've seen some great stuff. A CP3 Harden battle. We all thought it'd be one of the best series because of the whole Westbrook and OKC history, which hopefully we'll see Westbrook back in game 5. But right now, Alex, your predictions, who do you think you're going to take in game 5 if Westbrook's back or if he's not back?
Well, I will definitely pick Houston Rockets for game 5, but I'm going to push back a little bit there. I don't think the series has been as interesting as the Mavericks Clippers series, but I do think it's an underrated series. I mean, the first 2 games, when Houston went up 2-0, everyone was like, oh, this is.
And it was overtime game 3 for OKC to win it.
And that was an incredible game too.
So but think about it, they're one overtime away, they're one shot away or a couple seconds away from being up 3-0.
Guess what? Now it's 2-2. It's like best of 3 series.
That's how the playoff goes.
Anyone could win it. Mm-hmm. And I'm very interested in the clash of styles. Houston, run and gun. 5 out, no centers on their team.
I'm honestly
just chucking up threes, but I guess there's a little bit of
we say chucking, and I don't even want to say chucking. Chucking to me is like when Dame or Steph or LeBron pulls up from super far. Like they're moving the way they move the ball. It's like one guy will have in the corner, dish it to the other corner, and you'll just see it move around 5 players. Like, you'll see that happen before they get an open
obviously
shot.
They have a lot of good plays, but at the same time, their philosophy is like there's almost no bad 3-pointer to take. Like you can find better shots, but
they want the most efficient one. They want the open corner 3, or they want the contested one.
But if it's contested, they're still shooting. They just want all the threes no matter what. So whatever. They have, their volume.
Last game they broke the record.
Okay, they broke the record. Speaking of that, they literally talk about chucking, John.
If you watched.
they took 57 3-pointers, which is the most ever in a playoff game.
Right. And
So-
how many 2-pointers did they take? It was something like in the 20s or 30s.
Yeah.
So they're taking far more 3-pointers.
Of course.
Obviously.
I mean, they
but
did.
look, it works. And like I love watching, especially on defense. They got 5 wing players, right? If you're thinking of the lineup, Daniel House Jr., Harden, obviously, Eric Gordon, PJ Tucker, and Robert Covington. Those are just 5, like, just wing players. Like,
the only-
2, 3. I don't think any of those guys is really a true power forward if you're talking about height, position,
Of course.
size. They're all, like, a shooting guard, small forward types, right? So they're all in there. So they're quicker, right? You don't have a big, you don't have a big
Exactly, and the reason
Boban type of guy.
we haven't
obviously.
seen OKC use size to punish them because if you look at who they have, Steven Adams, he's not the best post player. He can do something.
He should be doing more,
and he
though.
can crash the boards, of course.
Yeah.
But when you look at the Clippers team, I guess it's the clash of styles, but also a little bit similar in that their best lineups are ones that consisted of 3-point guards: Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder, by the way, we named him 6th Man of the Year in our podcast. He absolutely balled. He was, to me, Chris Paul had to play better because in the first 2 games, Chris Paul did not have Chris Paul games, so just like that. And then in Game 3 and Game 4, he came back and he had 2 very, very good games. And of course, while I believe Chris Paul was the difference, I think Dennis Schroeder, I mean, he had a ton of huge plays in Game 4. He had one buzzer beater at the end of the 3rd quarter, I think.
Well, those
Which
points
put them
add
down.
up.
Yeah, they add up at the end. They put them only down by 1 point. So
Yeah, they cut. Houston had an early lead, and it looked like all right, 3-1. You know.
But the reason I'll still pick the Rockets is because ultimately I'm gonna favor the offensive juggernaut that the Rockets. So I'm gonna favor that they've had like 2 pretty decisive wins, whereas OKC has had 2 like comeback / close games / overtime wins. And while a win is a win, doesn't really matter. I still do favor the Rockets because also I think they're the best player in the series. Harden put up a stat line before yesterday. Any player in the playoffs who had scored over 30 points, over 15 assists, and over 5 rebounds, or at least 30, 15, and 5. Those players were 11-0. Never lost a game.
Their teams were,
James, the first player, he put up 32, 15, and like 6 or something. He put up those numbers and he lost. First player to ever put up that stat line and lose.
Yes, you know what? I don't think this goes 7, but
Really?
even though it's
So you think the Rockets get the
I just think the Clippers will have to pull out another close one. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Chris Paul's team.
Yeah.
The Thunder would have to pull out another close one, and I think just for what you said, I just don't know if they're going to be able to pull another close one. I mean, again, they're 1 overtime game away from being down 3-0. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. I could see Rockets taking the next 2, but obviously it still is 2-2. Who do you think would be a better matchup with the Lakers, or who are you more inclined to want to see play the Lakers?
Want to see? I mean, I think they both be interesting matchups. CP3 versus LeBron in a playoff series would be really fun.
They haven't ever gone up against it.
Yeah,
I remember when in 2013, 14-ish, I was like, I want to see Clippers in the finals against our Heat, which we never got to see.
They never met us there. But of course, I do think that the Rockets would probably be a little bit of a better matchup. I think it'd be more competitive, and I do think that they do a lot. While Portland, we saw how Portland was able to upset the Lakers in Game 1. I think Houston can offer a lot of the same things, but obviously Houston is a way better defensive team. Portland has a lot of defensive flaws. They're pretty flat out bad at defense. Whereas Houston, even though they're small, they've been very impressive and honestly just surprising in the bubble and especially in the playoffs as well defensively. And I would like to see. I know I said Chris Paul, LeBron would be fun, but I want to see like Harden as the best player in a series where he's faced off against LeBron, who's a guy who's like undisputably definitely.
We're not going to see that.
Like
I'll just tell you this because
we're not going to see what?
We're not going to see Harden be a better player than LeBron.
Oh, I'm not saying he'll be better. I'm just saying I want to see how he responds to playing against one of the best players in the world.
Well, we've seen him go up against the Spurs before. We've seen him go up against the Warriors before.
And the Warriors, though, they did have Kevin Durant in 2018.
They weren't afraid.
That year they probably could have won it. James Harden actually did have a very good series until that Game 6 where he kind of choked, you could say.
The game when Steph was scoreless in the first half and then threw it. That was last year, 2019.
I'm talking about 2018 year that they missed 100 3-pointers or whatever.
Right. Well, also, I always just think about how CP3 got injured at the end of Game 5.
And that injury, of course, hurt them. But last year was the year where you're playing against Steph and Clay, no Durant.
Mm-hmm.
It's you, it's Chris Paul, like, this is where Harden's supposed to be like, you know what? Like, yeah, I know Steph might be a little better than you or whatever. Or I'm sure he wouldn't even say
Well,
that.
Steph had a
He'd say,
horrible
I'm
first
just
half, but it was the best comeback game, right? Steph in the second half completely took over.
So I think, and they lost in 6 games. So I think that was a year that Harden definitely like kind of choked. But once again, like, let's see what you do versus LeBron. Let's see what you do versus the Lakers, who hasn't been phenomenal in the bubble or
this is the
playoffs.
thing. This is the thing I was going to tell you. That it's not going to happen because a lot of times we see these great teams start off sweep, 4-1, and they get to the conference finals, and they're playing. They started off stronger than they probably are at that point, just from the wear and tear that's happened throughout the playoffs. Whereas the Lakers, I think, started bad, and they're getting better each game. They have.
Well, yeah.
And I think we're going to see that. And now, if the Rockets had caught them right in the beginning of the playoffs, yeah, maybe they would have been able to. Same thing with the Heat, who are going to play the Bucks. Look who took game 1 from the Bucks, the Magic, and I still don't think the Bucks are, I don't think they're going to sweep the Heat. I think it's going to be a season, which we're going to talk about. But I think if we had caught the Bucks in a first round the way the Magic did, you know what I'm saying? The Magic were able to steal a game.
For sure.
Same thing with the Lakers. The Lakers came out and they weren't playing their best basketball. Now they are playing their best basketball, and the Rockets are going to.
They've kind of played themselves into into a rhythm clearly, and that was another big topic with like LeBron and passing and trying to get these other guys involved. Yeah. But now these guys are making shots. So if those guys are making shots, would I take LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and a bunch of shooters, or James Harden and hopefully Westbrook can come back and be healthy?
Yeah, I hope Westbrook
and a bunch of shooters. Of course I'll figure
LeBron and Davis are going off next series.
Okay, so another series we haven't honestly given too much airtime to in our podcast is the Jazz versus the Denver Nuggets. We did talk about that because that was the first playoff game that we watched right before we did our preview. And in that game, we were talking about Donovan Mitchell dropping 57 points, and today again, or yesterday, or no,
2 days ago.
2 days ago, they're playing today. 2 days ago, Mitchell had another incredible game. He dropped 51 points. He scored, I think, 16 straight in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Very clutch player, huge performance. He joined Michael Jordan, Allen Iverson, and Wilt Chamberlain as the only players to ever have 2 50-point games in the same series. So, I want to hear your thoughts, John, on where that series is going. I mean, it's 3-1, so it looks like at this point the Jazz are definitely going to take it, unless something incredible would have to happen on the Denver side.
Yeah, Nuggets have never come back, I think, from the 3-1 lead.
Just to talk more specifically about Donovan Mitchell, who's honestly he's a bona fide stud. Like he's just a star.
Except we haven't talked about him at all. So
we haven't talked about him. He had an incredible.
They're not talking about him much.
But this has to mean something, John. Right? So where do you rank him in the NBA now? Like where?
So I think he's right behind. Obviously he's not in the camp with LeBron, Kawhi, KD, Giannis, Steph, Luka, Harden, Dame. He's not in that combo. But I think he is right behind him. I think he's in the Westbrook, Jokic, PG-13, CP3, Tatum, Embiid combo. I think he's leading. He's leading those guys right now. And you think he's not?
I wouldn't even. Well, I guess this is another conversation. I just think some of the guys you meant, like Paul George, to me, is like not even in that combo.
Exactly because of this. I'm saying
he's falling down.
So then you're saying where's Donovan?
Yeah, so I'm saying Donovan, like he's nipping at the heels of the top 10.
Yes, I agree. That's what I'm saying. He's leading the second tier of dudes in this league. And just go with some numbers for this series. He's averaging 39.5 points per game. He's shooting 51.4% from 3-point range. Okay, so maybe half the 3-pointers he shoots, he makes. 56.4% overall and 95.5% from the line. So he's averaging 40 points on 50-50-90. So it's not even 50-40-90. 50-50-90.
The other game, I think they said going in, it was towards the end of the game.
He missed 2 free throws the whole series.
Right? Now he's only missed 2, but he only missed the 1 up until that end of the game.
Right.
And he missed that 1.
But the crazy thing, he's doing all of this, and he's not even like the 3rd, 4th, 5th. I mean, I guess I would say he's probably. I mean, let's see. We just talked about 3 series before him, so he's the 4th biggest story in the bubble right now.
And maybe it's because they're up 3-1, so maybe it's not as.
No. I just think it's because now that Dame has gotten his respect that he's deserved. To me, Donovan Mitchell is the most underrated superstar in the league right now. He dropped 50 twice in the playoffs. He's on par with MJ, AI, and Wilt for what he's done. And he also is the 3rd highest. He scored the 3rd highest amount of points in a playoff game, 57, which is behind Michael Jordan and LG Bailey. So he's in 2 Michael Jordan conversations. Okay, absolutely ridiculous. So I just think the other reason he's underrated is he led in his rookie season, which he should have been Rookie of the Year with Ben Simmons. Rookie season, he led that Jazz team to the playoffs. After they lost Gordon Hayward, everyone wrote them off. He was a 20-point per game scorer in his rookie season. And then they beat out Russell Westbrook and Paul George in round 1 of the playoffs, okay? Paul George, a top 3 MVP guy, and Russell Westbrook, who was coming off of his MVP season, right? Then obviously the next round, they lose to that 65-win great Rockets team. Last year, the same thing happens. They get the bad draw of the Rockets team in the first round. They lose to just a better Rockets team that they just were not equipped to go up against. And now in his 3rd season, he's again proving us all wrong for picking the Nuggets, right? It so easily could have been a sweep. They're up 3-1 right now. The one game they didn't win so far of the 4 games this series, Denver won it in overtime, and Donovan had 57 points. You know, and Mike Conley wasn't playing, obviously.
Mike Conley didn't play, and so we have to give credit to Mike Conley because he's come in and he's honestly looked like a different person. A lot of people, the commentators are joking about how when you have a kid, sometimes you come back and now you're just like hooping. And so now he left the bubble to watch the birth of his daughter. And since then, at the first game he came back and played, he was shooting lights out. Like I haven't seen Mike Conley put on a show like that since 2016 when he was going up against the Spurs. That series was like incredible. But so Mike Conley, gotta give him a lot of credit. Mm-hmm. But the other thing is, a lot of people have been joking about this on Twitter too. Is like since game 1, since he dropped 57 points, since Jamal Murray took that video of like, oh, this is the bubble, you know. This guy just dropped 57 on me. Now I gotta see him Donovan Mitchell waiting for food or something like that, just sitting on his phone.
And then after that scene, they're like, let's see Jamal Murray go take a Snapchat after he just lost.
Guess what happened? Not since that point, they're 3-0.
Right, exactly. I thought you were gonna tell me like Donovan saw him and he was like, hey, when you're up 3-1, you get to see this guy.
Yeah, that's funny. But it's crazy that and even when we had that first episode, I said, you know, it's tough to see Mitchell put up 57 and then lose. Like, if he's doing that and he still can't win a game, I was like, I think that I was closer to picking the Nuggets in 5 or even like Nuggets in 6 than definitely 9. What it looks like we'll probably get the Jazz in 5. So
yeah, it goes back to that first tweet I talked about from the guy from The Ringer, Paulo Getty, who said the only captivating series is Houston, OKC, and Philly, Boston.
Yeah.
The 2 I said were literally Denver versus Utah, which I said was going 7. Doesn't look like it's going to go 7. But still, Donovan's putting up numbers. And everyone picked how the Nuggets would handle them easily, right?
Yeah.
And also the other one, I said Mavericks, Clippers. The 2 best series I would say.
That team hasn't aged well at all, obviously, just because of also... Was Celtics Sixers that interesting? A little bit interesting, just of like the underlying storylines.
If Simmons was playing, sure.
Happen. Yeah, but with even though I was
Simmons out.
I see Embiid versus like they have a team where like no one can guard him. And he put up like decent numbers, but did he have a great series?
He got gassed every second half. Yeah. We already did our whole Sixers post-mortem. Brett Brown officially did get fired. You heard it here first, though, the day before on Double Take. But yeah, quickly, the one extra thing I wanted to say, we've seen the guys who've broken out in the bubble, T.J. Warren, Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell now, who seems like he's getting to the next level of his stardom. The thing is, when you have 4.5 months off, I'm talking about this with Booker, so players get better. They come back and they're different. And I think that's what we've seen from Donovan Mitchell. It's like he had an off season, and now this is the next season. Yeah. Same thing with Luka.
Kenny the Jets.
Luka is now at his MVP Luka, whereas in reality that was supposed to be during the 2021 season. But right now it's August. There wasn't going to be any season, so all the basketball timelines.
These guys are kind of going up a level.
Yeah, so they all went up a level, and that's why I think we're going to see Donovan now start to get into. Somewhat into that top 10 conversation next
for
season.
sure. Oh yeah, he should be able to make it, especially like, let's say guys like Nikola Jokic he's already kind of underperforming. If you beat that, and I think most people would say he's either on the cusp or top 10. Same with Embiid.
He's getting into
guys. People are like, I don't know if those guys are top 10.
Yeah,
we'll see.
They're getting into overrated territory because if they can't do this in the playoffs, then how good are they really? Mm-hmm. Donovan's doing it where it matters.
Exactly.
He's better than both Embiid and Jokic in my opinion at this point.
Okay, let's move over to the Eastern Conference. Before we give our safe bets of the week, John, let's tag team the Eastern Conference semifinals, give our previews. Why don't we start with the series that we already know is going to happen? Celtics-Raptors is 100% going to happen because both teams have swept. So, John, why Why don't you give me a little rundown,
Yeah.
and then maybe I'll agree, disagree, I'll see what your
So,
thoughts are.
I'm gonna
Celtics,
stick.
Raptors.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with my pick in my bracket. I picked the Celtics, and I don't love Hayward going out because their team is thin, right? To win a championship, you need those 8 guys. But you know
They got
what?
7. They got like 7 right now, John.
But you know, this isn't a championship. Can they get out of the second round? I think they can do it. I'm gonna stick with them to win in 7. But we're gonna have an awesome second round all around the league. But I think this will be the most competitive series because of how well these two teams match up. But not only how well they match up, I think the specific matchups that we're gonna see. So we got the young stars. I think there's gonna be a nice race to see who's gonna be the #1 guy in the series, which is Pascal Siakam for the Raptors and Jason Tatum.
And even on the outer circle, I would be completely shocked if Brown is even like the best player.
So that's another one is who's going to be the better #2? Who's going to be the better Robin?
Yeah.
Fred VanVleet, or is it going to be Jaylen Brown?
Or Lowry.
And then no, Lowry's not. And then it's the point guard battle, right? This tough pitbull defensive-minded point guard Lowry against a very offensive-minded point guard in Kemba. So we're gonna see just the one-on-one type of matchups we're gonna see are great. The one thing I will say is I do not think the Celtics will be able to fully contain what Siakam does because just the size he has, they're definitely a little bit small. But similarly, I don't think that the Raptors have an answer for when Brown and Tatum are both firing. That duo can take out any team.
I definitely disagree with you.
They can take out any team in the league. But one more thing I want to say quickly is also we have 2 young coaches who are, I think, undisputed top 5 coaches in this league. Specifically, Brad Stevens has something to prove this round because everyone's anointed Nick Nurse already after winning the chip last year, after leading the team to
he just won Coach of the Year.
Another 50-win season and a Coach of the Year. I think he kind of took Brad Stevens' spot as this guru coach,
the young
coach that everyone loves.
Intelligent.
Exactly, and Brad Stevens hasn't fully proved himself yet, right? He's
in
done
the playoffs at least.
In the
He
playoffs.
had a couple good runs, but
I'm saying I look at last year. Last year that team had finals expectations. They didn't do it, and we all blame Kyrie for that. And maybe that's wrong, but that's just the narrative. That's what we're gonna do. We say it was Kyrie. This season they swapped out Kyrie. They got a guy who's about 80% his game, but 200% his leadership and teammate ability and locker room presence in Kemba Walker. And he's got his team. Let's see what you're one of the best coaches in the league. Let's see what you can do against a team that maybe you're not totally evenly matched with, but you're a little bit of an underdog, I'll say. Because look what we just saw in the bubble. They won 122 to 100. So they blew out this Raptors team, and it's not like they weren't sitting Siakam. Both teams, and listen, the Raptors were 7-1 in the bubble. This was their one loss, but I think this is the game. This is the series we need to see. We saw him in 2017 and 18. We saw Brad Stevens take us in the conference finals and lose to LeBron. LeBron's out of there now. Kyrie's not on your team anymore. If you're one of the best coaches in the league, let's see it happen. If you lose in a close game in a Game 7, I'm not going to say, Brad Stevens didn't get it done. But let's see what happens. I think on paper, no one expected this Raptors team to do what they're doing. Defensively, they're incredible. But you have Brown, Tatum, and Kemba. I know that you lost Hayward, but of those 4, he's the one guy I would be okay with losing.
And so before I push back, I just want to say this series I'm very, very excited about. Also because of our friend basketball/Miami Heat group chat. It's kind of split. There's 3 of us who are more on the Raptors. I'm one of them. John, of course, hates Kyle Lowry, so he's.
I don't hate Kyle Lowry. This is my opinion on Kyle. Kyle Lowry is good at what he does. He's overrated. Everyone's talking like he's the Chris Paul. No, he's not.
John picked the Celtics, and then we have 2 other Celtics fans in the group. So it's interesting. But the reason I disagree, and I'm definitely going to pick Toronto in this series, while I do think they'll be competitive, and these teams are pretty evenly matched. I think without Hayward, and Hayward probably won't be coming back. I think it was 4 weeks. That was a week ago.
In round 3, he could come back.
Yeah. So Hayward's not going to come to save them. And while they're better defensively, with no Hayward, because now Marcus Smart's in the lineup, you have less depth.
I totally forgot to mention, and I should have, because Marcus Smart in the starting lineup looks awesome.
Yeah, it looks great for defensive. But then you look on the bench. Brad Wanamaker and Enes Kanter are the guys who are getting most minutes. Mm-hmm. Then they had the other game. This was game 4. So even a game when like more guys are playing, the next person with the most minutes was Semi Ojeleye with 7 minutes. Like they don't. Stevens didn't really trust any of these other guys. You look at your starting lineup. Tatum played 40 minutes. Smart played 43. Brown played 41.
Okay, so tell me this: Smart, Brown, and Tatum, are any of them incapable of doing that for a 7-game series?
Oh, I'm not saying that, but here's more what I'm saying. I'm just saying you put Smart into the starting lineup because without Hayward, you're losing depth, of course. And now another bigger thing I think is important with a team that's so great defensively, you really need an extra offensive guy who. Like, you can be worried. Hayward could go for 30 one night. Like, you can't just, like, leave Hayward alone. But now, and what you would have had to see, John, is one of Lowry and Van Fleet would have had to guard Hayward, probably. Or depending on the matchup, one of those two guys would have to guard
Van Fleet is getting
either Brown, Tatum, or Hayward. Because one of them will stay on Kemba.
Van Fleet's going to have to guard one of those.
Well, no, now they can hide him and throw him on Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart's not a hard guy to defend.
Even still, you're right. I would probably see that happen. But
just to go switches. I'm sure they'll go for switches.
To go to your point, there's gonna be a lot of Wanamaker, and I don't love it. But I'm relying on Brad Stevens to just look at his team, analyze. He knows what he has to get done. He knows Brown, Tatum, and Kemba need to play this many minutes, need to have this many points, need to have this many touches for them to put themselves in position at the end of the game to win a game against this great defensive team. But it's fine when you see Semi Ojeleye play 7 minutes or whatever. That's fine. He knows he has his guys. Stick with Tatum, Brown, and Kemba. And I don't overplay Kemba because
here's one more.
We don't think he's fully healthy. But yes, overplay Smart, Brown, and Tatum. This is the year to do it. If you want to win a title, you're gonna have to.
Yes.
If you want to omelet, you're gonna have to break some eggs. And you're not gonna. Don't get your players injured, but don't give Brad Wanamaker minutes. Don't give him shots and touches. Where it's fine when Tatum is still get Tatum his Gatorade, when he takes a 5-minute break, but the rest of the game he should be playing.
Well, so here's the thing is, I think for Boston to win, I don't think it's really going to come down to Stevens. It's going to come down to how does Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to a lesser extent, but how does he play? If he plays the same way he played in last series against a very, very weak Sixers team, obviously. If he's putting up 30 points a game in like 40 minutes or 32, 34.
Celtics got it.
No, I'm not saying Celtics got it. I'm saying that's if he's gonna. I think he's gonna need to do that for them to even be it. For it to be like a somewhat competitive series. Because then another thing, yes, Boston has a weak bench. Toronto has an incredible bench. They just scored. I know it was against the Brooklyn Nets, so don't make too much of this. But they scored 100 points. You have to have a good bench. I don't care what team you're playing. You have to have a good bench to score 100 points.
Okay. Also, and Lowry was out, so most of their bench guys were just playing a lot of minutes.
Doesn't matter. It's still.
I know. I'm just saying.
Can do that to Boston. They didn't come close to that against.
They dropped 150 in the game. Like they blew out the team by 30 points. You're right. Their bench was great, but. We could see scrubs do that. The Lakers bench probably did the same thing last night. One more thing, though, is the motivation that these young stars have, which is going to be great to see them go at it. The Celtics finally have their opportunity. I think it's the best opportunity they've had because LeBron's out of the East, and they potentially might not have to face Giannis until, if the Heat knock him out, they won't have to, or until next round.
And Giannis is kind of like, I think, against, we talked about this earlier, double taking in the restart. They only have.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
They do not have an answer.
And then also the Raptors are hungry, have something to prove as well. It's the same as the young guys on Boston who want to show that they can make it farther than they have because they want to do it without Kawhi. So I think both these teams, all the hunger.
Dude.
I love the individual matchups between the coach, between the point guards, between the young studs, and we're gonna see what happens.
Yeah, let's not beat the dead horse, but I just think I really give the Raptors the edge in almost every category. Even like the chip on the Raptors' shoulder versus the.
They do not have a duo like Brown and Tatum. That's why Brown and Tatum, if one has one 40-point game this game, one has another 40-point game this game, they're gonna do it. They will.
But I favor the bench, I favor the coach,
I know defense wins championships, and we're gonna see great defense, but I'm rooting on. I'm picking them.
Now Heat Bucks. We've done a little bit of coverage of this, but now that it's like actually probably going to happen unless the Magic win 3 straight games.
Yeah, I think we should talk about how the Heat match up against Nikola Vucevic.
Against Nikola Vucevic, who,
Vuce?
He's had an incredible series too. He's been cooked. I think he's averaging 30. So anyway. All right. The Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks have played 3 times this season, Ron. The first 2 times, we where actually we're getting at full strength. The first time we didn't have Jimmy Butler, but we did. We
had
still
Justice
Justice as
Williams.
well, and he had a nice game, whatever. We played them in Milwaukee, third game of the season. Then we played them in Miami, and then we played them again in the bubble. In the bubble, we had no Jimmy Butler, no Goran Dragic. But in those 3 games, we're averaging 18 3-pointers and 30 assists. Milwaukee, we've said this before, a team who they have a great defense, but they pack the paint and they kind of dare teams to shoot threes. And it's like, if you're not going to make a ton of your threes, then like we're just going to crush you guys, and we're going to get out in the fast break. Miami, we have a great defense. We're very good at slowing down the fast break. And like I said, so before, going back to the 3-pointers, we have shooters, and they're playing incredible right now. Goran Dragic, I just saw this, it was on Miami, he posted it. It was like, in his whole career with us, let's say he's played 22, I think it was around 22 playoff games. In 21 of them, he scored over 20 points. Goran Dragic for us always comes up big in the playoffs. He's playing
Very
lights
clutch.
out against the Pacers. He
shows up.
Pacers.
And he always said, I learned it from in the playoffs.
Yeah, I learned from
D-Wade,
Chris
Bosh,
Bosh.
Udonis Haslem. I love it. What a Heat guy. That's a Heat culture guy.
Heat lifer. But so Milwaukee this year, they're 1-2 against the Heat, or against the rest of the East. They're 36-5. So no matter how you slice it, they struggle a lot with us. And even I want to talk about the game in which we got blown out by them in the end of the game. But we were up 23 points. And this is in the bubble. We were up 23 points against them in the first half with no Jimmy Butler, no Goran Dragic. We lose the lead in the fourth quarter. Giannis took over. That's when he was just I'm the guy. But the reason we were even in that game with you could argue those are two of our best, if not our best 2 players, they're 2 of our 3 best players. The reason we were even in that game, we went 21 for 46 from 3-point range, just 45%. Everyone who played over a minute and a half, so everyone who had significant minutes in the game, hit at least 1 3, which I remember that stat, and I was that's crazy. So we spread the wealth and the strength in numbers. If you're going to beat a guy like Giannis, if you're going to go up against the MVP, you're going to go up against a transcendent offensive player, the only way you're going to do it is you're going to have to be deep and you're going to have to score a lot of points. So obviously 3-pointers is going to be the main.
And the reason we lost that too was to me, I'm chalking that up as a W, and I know it wasn't, but we saw this against the Pacers in Game 3. The Pacers came, but we went off to a great start. We were up 20, but guess what? Kenny Smith said this at halftime, and he's right. Listen, or whatever, after the game, there's so many possessions in a game. A 20-point lead in the first half doesn't mean anything because
in this NBA,
because 24-second shot clock, the way everyone shoots 3. Eventually, if you get it's a game of runs. If you get a 7-0, 8-0 run, 10-0 run, you're right back in it.
And the Bucks in that game actually started off the second half, the game they played us, 20-0 run.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is a game of runs, so 20-point lead doesn't mean anything. However, when that team makes the 10-0 run, and you still have Jimmy Butler and Goran Dragic, they're the ones who say, all right, we're gonna put this on cruise control. We're gonna slow it down. The coach is gonna call a timeout when we need to, but I'm gonna say, all right, I'm just gonna get us 1 quick bucket, stop the bleeding. I'm not gonna stop their, maybe their 20 to 12 run, but we're not gonna let it be a 20 to 0 run.
Exactly. And that was the difference in that game. But of course, our shooting and our ball movement, which is looking beautiful, it's looking Spurs-esque right now, I should say.
Unreal.
Is what will help us win that game. And then, of course, defense. There's no such thing as a Giannis stopper in the NBA, but Bam Adebayo, actually, so Kevin O'Connor had a really dope video. He's been doing some videos for The Ringer called the Restart, where he's breaking down stuff. In the
he's
NBA.
probably the best, I think, analyst guy right now.
Him and Zach Lowe, I think they're the smartest guys. Anyway, in the video he had, this was before we played them the 3rd time. So in the first 2 games against Giannis, he made a graph in which he put all the players who have guarded Giannis for, I don't know what the minimum 35 possessions against Giannis Antetokounmpo this year. And the best defender against Giannis was Bam Adebayo.
Right.
In those 2 games, so those 2 wins against the Bucks, Giannis was 8 for 23 from the field against Bam, and he only drew 1 foul. So it's 36%. So of course, no such thing as a Giannis stopper, but Bam, he's gonna have as good of a chance to guard Giannis or slow him down as anyone. And then I think it's really time to talk more about the Bucks now. Chris Middleton, obviously struggling a ton, and I know before I've talked about how I think their strength isn't in like their number 2 guy or whatever. It's more about they kind of have a ton of guys who on any given night can be like your next best player. We've seen Brook Lopez have incredible shooting nights. We've seen Bledsoe, just the other night actually, even Wes Matthews was like the guy who was interviewed with Giannis.
He looked great.
It's against the Mavericks, so let's not make too much of that. But they have guys who can put up points and have incredible games. But their defense has been struggling a lot. Nikola Vucevic in the playoffs.
Vucevic.
He's averaging 30 points and 10 rebounds. They're letting Nick Vucevic average 30 points and 10 rebounds. So I think
Nick V,
sure. I just think we have a much it's a very good matchup. We have as good of a chance as anyone to knock this team out. I think. So I think the only thing that comes down to for them is they have Giannis.
That's the blueprint for anyone like wondering. Oh, they hear the 5 seed, whatever. The Bucks are going to run through them. But just go watch the highlights of Bam guarding Giannis in the first games in those 2 games in the regular season we played against them, and you'll see why we're talking like we are. Especially adding Crowder and Andre Iguodala as well. Just we're gonna do the thing where you wall up and you're gonna make him to pass it out when he drives in the paint. And I hope Eric Bledsoe, I hope you can make that wide open shot.
We're gonna dare those guys to make those.
This is my thing about their team, and just watching them yesterday. I was watching closely at this Orlando Magic game. And then again, I rewatched some highlights from the Raptors games, the 4 straight Raptors games that they lost last year. And to me, it's when you wall up and Giannis needs to rely on the number 2 guy. But like we said, there's not a number 2 guy. They have like 3 number 3 guys, I think. And what I was telling Alex yesterday is I think if they could if they could morph Eric Bledsoe and Chris Middleton into one player. Like, I don't know what that looks like. Maybe it's like a Donovan Mitchell, Jamal Murray type of guy, but that's the guy they need. LeBron had his Dwayne Wade, and when the team over-focused on LeBron, he gave it to Dwayne Wade to hit the last shot if he had to. And the thing is, there's no other guy on this team it's Middleton, but I just don't think this game is conducive to that because he doesn't have handles in the way that I think like usual number 2 had. Shaq had Kobe, LeBron had Wade. Giannis doesn't have his, so I think they need to I'm not saying he needs to play with Damian Lillard because this team is nearly there. This team is like 95% of what all teams aspire to be. But I think they're just missing that one cherry on top.
I wouldn't even say 99. I think that they have a roster. They just need these guys to play better. They're going to need an incredible next 3 series from Middleton if they're going to win the championship.
I don't see them getting through both Miami and either Toronto.
He's been struggling up, but that game, going back to the game where they beat us in the bubble, Giannis had 33 points, put on a show, and he's been averaging like 30, 15, and 5 assists or 6 assists. He's been incredible. But Middleton also had 33 points in that game too. Mm-hmm. And Middleton had actually a couple of timely threes against us. I remember being like, oh, that's so annoying. He did like bank them in, so like doesn't really count. But anyway, point is, they both played well against us before. They've also both played terrible against us before. Right. So this series is gonna be great. We have a lot of great second round series. But as a Heat fan, looking forward to it.
Go Heat, baby.
And we're the underdogs, and we got a chip on our shoulders. So let's get after it. Okay, John. Let's quickly wrap up.
All right. So
safe bets of the week.
Safe bets. I'm up. I got right now. I'm so far since the restart.
Yeah.
I got 2 wins. They're both Boston, and 2 wins, both Boston. One was Boston over Philly, and one was Boston over Memphis in the bubble. The one that I lost was when the Mavericks lost to the Suns, which was one of the first games that indicated the Suns are making this 8-0 bubble run. But I'm gonna stick with Boston. I didn't really love any of the games that I saw today because Mavericks-Clippers kind of worried me. I thought the Clippers would be favored by less, but they were favored by 6.5. So yeah, I think the game they could win by only 5 maybe, or I just don't know. So I think I could see the Mavericks winning or losing by less than 5 or less. So what I'm saying, and I didn't like the game I saw yesterday, so I'm going all the way to Thursday's game. And right now, Boston is a 2-point underdog against Toronto. I'm going to take Boston in game 1, +2 on Thursday. That's my safe bet of the week.
All right. I obviously disagree with that because I think Toronto is going to win, but I also it just sickens me to see that you're just riding hard for
I have to. I hate to say it. I hate Boston too, but I got the luck of the Irish right now.
All right.
So.
Ugh, yeah. Anyway, so I also didn't really want to, I didn't want to bet on that Clippers game with the Mavericks. Don't know what to expect there. I'm not going to bet on Denver again because, man, they screwed me in our third safe bet. I said, all right, you're down 2-1. Like, you're the third best team in the West. Like, a good team respond to that. You know, I thought they're better. They're top to bottom, a better team, but I guess not.
I sent it to the dub.
I'm just gonna try to go with the safe pick, safe bet, and I think that the Lakers are gonna win against Portland. The line is Lakers minus 11. That is a lot.
The reason it is because people are sketched about Damian.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So that's why I think
I don't know if Lillard's gonna play.
I think they're trying to get this over with. They're trying to get as much rest as they can. They're seeing OKC and Houston. They're probably gonna go. They're looking like they could go to Game 7.
At least
let's get rid of Portland. Like Portland, it's you had a nice run, a nice set of Cinderella run. Damian, you won our hearts again, Damian. Mm-hmm. But it's time for Portland to go home, to leave the bubble. And guess what? I think this bubble factor. We talked about this with one of our friends. Shout out Max Barnes. When you're in a game, when you're in a closeout game. And now it's all right. You're down 10 in the fourth quarter. What are you thinking? All right, yeah, they want to win.
They're saying Cancun on 3.
Not Cancun on 3, but guess what? Let me go see my family on 3.
No, listen.
It's time to go home.
Listen, no.
Let me see my kids.
I'll disagree with you.
Let me see my wife.
And I've joked about this too, like at the end of the game yesterday. And the Heat game wasn't that interesting yesterday. I kind of just smiled. The Heat are going to take it. I was like, the Pacers can taste it. They can taste the plane ride home. They're ready to get out of the bubble, which the Pacers, once you're out, the very next day, you're kicked out. So the Pacers, I'm sure, have packed their bags. It's 10:30 the next day. They're already gone by now. But if they make it to the next round, their family gets to come. So that's extra motivation for them to play better and for them to win.
Not even down 3-1, though.
No.
And also, do you want your family coming to the bubble?
They want to win 3-1. I get some of these guys aren't competitive. Some of these guys are in it for the money and whatever. They don't care much about the basketball. But I promise you, most NBA players that are on playoff rosters, these dudes want to win. They're not trying to
What also reminded me, I think when the Cleveland Cavs were down 3-1 in 2016, like the thing I've heard other teams say, it's like, well, so you're in Game 5 in Golden State. Well, even if we lose or win, we're going home either way, so you might as well go home and have another game to play.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, you're not going home. You're just going to go home if you lose. So, and I think they're overmatched. Like, you're playing against LeBron, you're down 3-1. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen. So, okay. Well, it's been a great episode. NBA playoff basketball. Gotta love it. We got probably another month of this, or at least a month and a half.
Yeah. And then, in the offseason, we can get into things like doing our rankings of top 25 guys in the league.
We'll have to do an official list now because
there's
a lot of movements.
But the thing is, the offseason will not be that long. Obviously, there's already had the draft lottery. The draft's going to be soon after the finals, and free agency is slated to start in October 1st, which I think they want to get the finals over earlier, so they can get straight to free agency. And then pretty soon after that, I think they said December is when they want to start the 2021 season. So there's really not much of an off season because they kind of already had it.
Yeah, they already had the off season.
So. It's gonna be a crazy year to see LeBron repeat. As a 2020.
Don't jinx it, LeBron.
It's gonna happen. Right. You heard it here first.
As always, go Miami Heat. Got out the brooms, and thank you for everyone for listening. Have a good one.